All right, so with 2025 just around the corner, I decided to make a prediction on a bunch of just miscellaneous things that are going to happen next year. A few predictions of what will happen by the end of 2025. Just because, I do think I have the third eye of truth, and I think I can see the future here. No, but seriously, I do want to make some of these predictions, because I think it's fun to just kind of see what might happen at the end of the year. Maybe see how well these hold up. Put some more credibility on my name, other than the fact that I'm killing it on predictions every night. Just saying, if you're looking for predictions, I make those every week. Every week there's a fight night, of course, or a card, whatever case may be. Maybe I'm even streaming it by now. Who knows? Who knows? But anyways, regardless of that, let's get into some of the predictions. I'm going to start with the sad ones, which are going to be the retirements, And the first retirement is going to be Jon Jones. Now, this one's no surprise. If you're an MMA fan, you kind of assume Jon Jones is retiring after one more fight, or he's retiring now. I personally am under the camp that he vacates the belt and he doesn't fight anyone else because Alex Pereira is not going to fight him, and Tom Aspinall doesn't want to fight this fucking, wife beating, this roid abusing, this, 38-year-old fucking, he probably does want to fight him just to knock out the wife beater, but unfortunately, we gotta accept some things about Jon Jones, and, some people just decide to ignore them, like Jon Jones fans, but when Jon Jones reaches 38, I think he's gonna realize, fuck, I'm an old man, I need to retire, and I think he's gonna retire. I personally am predicting that he just retires. He decides not to continue after one fight, so I'm predicting him to basically be retired right now, is kind of where I'm at. So, yeah, that's my prediction. I think Jon Jones is going to be out of the conversation of pound-for-pound list, all this other shit, because he's going to vacate his belt and he's going to retire, because he's a pussy. Just saying. Now, moving on to the next one, maybe a little unexpected. I'm predicting Pereira to retire here. And I know what you're saying, but Pereira just got here. Yeah, but he's going to have to leave soon, especially on top. Pereira is going to be 38 soon, And I think by the end of the year, this is how I see it. If Alex Pereira gets his way and he gets the heavyweight belt via Jon Jones being a dumb fuck, thinking that he can strike with Alex Pereira, or if he gets it via Tom Aspinall, hey, maybe, just saying, putting it out there. But regardless, I do think Alex Pereira is going to retire. I do think he's getting older now. I think he's even stated that he doesn't have a lot of time left. I think that's him kind of putting one foot out the door to be like, guys, I'm going to do what I can as the Chad I can, and then leave. He's already a pretty good nominee for Fighter of the Year. I'll probably do a video on that, actually. That's a great idea. I'm going to do that video right after I record this one. But regardless, I do think Botan is retiring next year. I think he'll do it at the end of the year, probably after 3 fights, either defending his belt a few times, but at some point, if Jiri and Jamal are still around, because they're both still young, there's almost no reason for Pereira to stick around, because he will just be fighting bums. After he knocks out Ankalaev, then he moves up, fight Jon Jones for the belt, or he fights Tom Aspinall for the belt, wins the belt. There's going to be nothing more for him to achieve in the entire sport, other than title defenses, but that's a longevity thing, and this guy's one thing is that he's not going to be here for long. Just saying. And I don't want to see old man Pereira get knocked out one day, because he looks like a slow old man, who's 40 years old, and fucking, his hand speed's gone, his power's not really there, I don't want to see anything like that. I want Pereira to retire on top, retire as a man who's got 2 belts, probably defends against Ankalaev, maybe even beats DDP moving up, and then at that point he's got, what would that be? That'd be 1, 2, 3 title defenses, Ankalaev 4, 5 would be a DDP, or maybe some other contender at the time, Dominic Reyes on a winning streak. You know, something like that. You know, maybe he flatlines Dominic Reyes and showcases that he's better than Jones because Dominic Reyes whooped Jones' ass. Regardless, I do think Alex Pereira retires. You know, bold prediction, I know. But I think he's getting old, and I want him to retire on top. So I want my little Pookie Bear to retire on top. You know, but regardless, that's a retirement I'm seeing. The next retirement I'm seeing, yeah, I'm predicting 3 big retirements here. That's Islam Makhachev. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, but Islam's only 33. I know, but we know with some of these cliff dwellers, they like to retire because mommy says so. And mommy's been telling Islam to retire for a little bit now. He's already the lightweight GOAT because he has the most title defenses out of all the lightweights. Getting it off Charles Oliveira, I think, is probably the best way to win the title. Especially during Charles Oliveira's era, you know, the Olive era, as a lot of people are calling it. Beating Volkanovski twice, regardless, that's still 2 title defenses. After he beats Sarukian, which, yeah, I predict him to beat Sarukian. I think the only question for him is going to be moving up. I think Belal Muhammad's going to be out for fucking 8 months. There's going to be no reason for Islam Makhachev to move up. Maybe he gets one more. And if you're wondering why I don't think he's going to move up as Belal being the champ, I think it's just because Belal and him are buddies. They train together. That type shit. Because Belal's mentioned a few times he's trained with Islam. But regardless, I do think Islam doesn't go to welterweight. I do think he stays at lightweight. I think he might beat Sarukian, and then we're looking at like a Max Holloway, or we're looking at, after a win, of course, I'm not saying right now, or we're looking at a Dustin Poirier because he's bored. I don't fucking know, you know? We're looking at someone coming up the division. Beneil Dariush out of nowhere. No. Like a Dan Hooker, maybe, if Dan Hooker beats Holloway for a BMF belt or something, you know? Or Charles Oliveira rematch after a win. There's a lot of options, but basically, Renato Moicano, I don't think he gets past the money man, though. Just being honest here, you know? I think the money man's got his number. Just saying. But I do think Islam retires. Mom's been talking about it. He's talked about his mom talking about it. Not recently, but recent enough. I think it was early this year where his mom was, and everyone was like, there was a point in time, I think during the Volkanovski fight or rematch, it was like, guys, I think Islam's going to retire soon because his mom was saying something, you know, at least that was the full mount word, you know, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I do think Islam should retire on top. Islam would not be smart if, Islam's low IQ move would to be fighting Ilia Topuria. Just saying. Ilya's got hands. Makhachev's been knocked out. Ilya's posting that knockout. Love to see it. Keep it going, Ilya. You absolute fucking legend. Regardless, I think Islam is going to take the smart route, and he will beat Arman Sarukian probably by another close decision or another decision where we're just like, well, he didn't look that great, but he is going to do it. He is going to be the lightweight GOAT because he will have the most title defenses and will have probably the best record. Prime Volkanovski, Charles Oliveira during prime, if you want to call it that. Dustin Poirier during a pretty good time, I'd say, for Dustin Poirier. This definitely isn't like a shit Dustin Poirier, but all good wins. Also the first person I think Darce choked Dustin Poirier, great finish, whatever, was going to lose that round though before the situation. Just saying. Dustin Poirier about to be champ, and he choked it. It is what it is. But regardless, I think Islam retires at the end of the year. I think he does retire at the ripe old age of 34 because mommy says so. I'm kind of like, I can just kind of see it. There's not really anything for him to do. He doesn't care about fighting Ilia Topuria. He can't move up because Belal Muhammad's still on injury, and it's time for him to maybe fight for a vacant belt, like an interim belt at welterweight or something, and then he retires. A weird situation like that. But truthfully, I think he defends his belt twice. I know it's crazy if we're asking Islam to fight twice a year, but, you know, hey, stick with me here, guys. You know, I do think he fights twice next year. And once he defends his belt for the 5th time, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, that would be 5 times, he retires on top, as he probably should. You know, you don't want that Ilya smoke, but I do think Islam is the best lightweight technically on the planet. Yeah, I'd say that fairly confidently. He's the best lightweight on the planet. So, yeah. Oh, I thought that was pound for pound list. I read that Arman Sarukian #1 on pound for pound. I was like, what the fuck? No, it's actually Islam Makhachev. But yeah, I do think Islam retires. I think he does. I think it's a smart move. You know, it was fun while it lasted, but I think it's over for that. And then it's just going to be a war zone for the old vets. It's going to be Charles versus Gaethje 3. Fucking Dustin versus Charles after a loss. Fucking 3. It's going to be Max Holloway gets into the mix. And now it's Max Holloway, Oliveira 2. And Dustin Poirier, fucking Max Holloway 2. You know, it's just going to be fucking rematches on rematches for the next little while after Islam retires. But I think that's how it goes. Now, moving on to the more fun predictions, the little more miscellaneous stuff, not the retirements. I think Fighter of the Year is going to be, next year, by the end of the year, I think it's going to be Tom Aspinall. Hey, I've said it, Mike has been dropped. It's going to be Tom Aspinall, baby. He's going to get the belt unified, either by knocking out Jon Jones, because Jon Jones, he is slower than fucking molasses on the feet, and Tom Aspinall is this is Incineroar going against a fucking Mr. Mime from Gen 1. That's what this is. This is Incineroar versus Mr. Mime in Gen 1, alright? This motherfucker's whipping out all the super effective moves on that Jon Jones wife beating ass. But, yeah, I think he does become, pound for pound, or not pound for pound, maybe pound for pound #1, but Fighter of the Year is my prediction. After smoking Curtis Blades in a minute flat, that's actually sick. Sergey Pavlovich lasted longer, guys. I think he fights either against Gon or Volkov, whoever the winner is. Defends his belt there. Let's assume Jon Jones isn't in the picture. If he is in the picture and Tom Aspinall beats Jones and gets the title defense, Fighter of the Year, he beat Jones. I think that's enough said, right? You'd have to do something as wild as Ilia Topuria and kill 2 GOATs in the same year in order to even be close to Tom Aspinall. But Tom Aspinall, let's just say he beats Jones, Fighter of the Year regardless of whatever the fuck happens. Moving up past that, I think Tom Aspinall defends his belt against Volkov or Cyril Gane. A lot of people seem to think Gane is going to win. I'm on the Volkov side. I think it's going to be a rematch. Tom Aspinall smokes Volkov, probably in the first round. Now, after that happens, he probably then gets a Cyril Gane fight after a Cyril Gane win, because we know how they like to give Cyril Gane fucking title shots out of anywhere. I think Cyril Gane will lose, so that's Volkov, Cyril Gane done. I think in the meantime, Jolton Almeida might be up the rankings, and I think Tom Aspinall is going to submit Jolton Almeida or something, prove that he's just better. Or we might be looking at a... Yeah, I just think he's going to get a lot of defenses. I think he's going to have the 3 or 4 defenses, and it'll be against like a Volkov, like a Sergey Pavlovich off a winning streak, like a Jolton Almeida, like a Cyril Gane. I think he beats all of them, and I think he would probably get 3 or 4 fights next year, having the most title defenses in the year. I think that makes him Fighter of the Year. It's going to be hard to argue unless Ilya moves up, beats Islam, and then maybe beats Belal or some shit, right? Like... You'd have to do a lot, I think, in order to kind of be more impressive than Tom Aspinall next year, is what I'm thinking. Because Tom Aspinall will be smoking these guys early, and if Jon Jones' name is in any of these mixes, he's just the Fighter of the Year. Like, there's no competition. But yeah, that's my prediction. I think Tom Aspinall wins it. I think it's kind of hard competition out there. The only other contender could be an Ilia Topuria, could be an Alex Pereira if Alex Pereira decides to fight Tom Aspinall and wins type situation. But I do think Aspinall would win. Regardless, moving on. I think this might be kind of a crazy take. I see a lot of people shitting on this guy now, but I still think he's a fundamentally good fighter. He's just not dangerous, doesn't have a great chin, but he's a fundamentally good fighter. And the person I'm talking about is Leon Edwards. I'm predicting he gets a winning streak this year. Maybe he doesn't get a winning streak and just gets a win, but I think the narrative right now is that Leon Edwards is going to lose his next fight regardless whoever it is. I'm not in that camp. I think there's matchups that are bad for him. I think a JDM would be worst case scenario for Leon Edwards. But I think it's possible for him to win. Leon Edwards isn't a shit grappler. And if Gilbert Burns is able to almost crack a decision against JDM, I think Leon Edwards could probably find a way to crack a decision against JDM. He just has to survive, of course. I do think that he's probably not getting his belt back, because now we're talking about Shavkat holding the belt. Now we're talking about Ian Gary holding the belt, maybe. Ugh. If that's the case, I think Leon Edwards does win. But no, seriously, I think Leon Edwards does beat a lot of guys in the division right now. Maybe not a lot, but he can tiptoe around some of these hungry contenders, you know? I don't think he beats a Sean Brady. I don't think he beats a Shavkat Rakhmonov, but I don't think his odds are dog shit. He could beat a Shavkat Rakhmonov if Shavkat gets fraud checked and he doesn't look that great in terms of like point striking. He doesn't really point strike regardless, and Leon Edwards could be a sniper on the feet and just kind of point strike his way to victory. Kamaru, I don't want to see that. Colby don't want to see, but he could beat like a Buckley, you know? Even Buckley, I'm predicting Buckley to beat Colby, so I'm putting Buckley here. I think if Buckley fights Leon Edwards, I think it could be close. Like, Leon Edwards is still a championship level fighter, in my opinion. He's just not got the greatest chin, and he had a terrible performance his last night out. I think enough said, right? But I do think there's winnable matchups, like a Gilbert Burns coming up, kind of, you know? Wonderboy Thompson, I think he could out-grapple Wonderboy, being boring, but Leon Edwards could win. And while I'm not necessarily saying that, like, Leon Edwards is my favorite fighter, I still think the guy's good. I have no reason to think this guy's dog shit, other than the fact that he did lose to Belal, is what it is, had a crazy winning streak before then. But I do think he's still good. He just doesn't have a great chin, and he doesn't have finishing ability. It is what it is, you know? But we've seen people who don't have great finishing abilities, and who, at the time, were rated not to have great chins in a Sean Strickland fighting Israel Adesanya. Now, if you listened to me, you would have got that prediction right, as I predicted Sean Strickland by decision. Hey, just saying. Ooh, just saying if you're looking for picks and predictions. But I do think Leon Edwards gets a win. I don't think he's that shit, just being honest. Maybe that's a molten hot take, but I think he's still good, you know? I think he's still, like, a legit fighter. He's not like a Jorge Masvidal, who's not really a fighter anymore. He's not a Nate Diaz, who was never really a fighter, just had some good jiu-jitsu. You know, good at, like, shit-talking, getting in your head, and then submitting your ass. Outside of that, yeah, maybe a decision merchant, I guess you can call him. You know, but too much scar tissue, and you're fucked, right? You know, I do think bald spot Leon Edwards gets a win this year. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, moving on. I'm predicting Belal to lose. Whoa, shocker. I think Belal literally loses his first title defense, regardless whoever it is. If Ian Gary can finish Shavkat or decision Shavkat, I think he genuinely beats Belal Muhammad. If Shavkat finishes Ian Gary, I think Shavkat beats Belal Muhammad. If JDM gets a jump up the title, which I think he kind of deserves a little bit more, I think JDM beats Belal Muhammad. If Carlos Prates fucking gets up to the division, I think Carlos beats fucking Belal Muhammad. I think everyone beats Belal Muhammad. Even a Sean Brady rematch, I'm flipping a coin, I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't think Belal's that good. I don't think he looked that good against Leon Edwards. People act like this dominant performance. Let's not, like, pretend in the last 10 seconds Belal Muhammad almost got finished. Leon Edwards started raining down 5 elbows, cut Belal Muhammad's eye, and it literally looked like dude was about to cry. Because he was about to choke a fight. That was, oh, what a Belal performance that would have been. You know, let's not forget he couldn't finish Gilbert Burns with one arm. You know? Just saying, right? Short notice, I get it, whatever, right? But I do think, damn, he hasn't fought Sean Brady in almost 3 years. I would actually think Sean Brady, I think actually would do a lot to Belal Muhammad this time, especially if he decides to wrestle. But regardless, I think Belal Muhammad does lose his next fight, and I think he gets finished in his first title defense. He's going to be one of the only title holders to pull out of a fight, and then he's also going to be instantly stripped of the belt. That's kind of my prediction. He's 36-year-old. He's going to be 37 by the next time he fights. He's old. He doesn't have a great chin. Barely beat Gilbert Burns with one arm. You know, Just saying. I don't think he's that good. I don't put a lot of weight in this Leon Edwards fight. There's a lot of things that happened around the fight. The time zone, the everything. There's a lot of things that happened in that fight where I think Leon Edwards was, as Dana White would say, looked a little flat out there, right? Maybe you can call me coping, whatever. Don't really care. Belal Muhammad, he's a little tortilla man. Done with him. But yeah, I do think he loses his first title defense. That's my prediction for next year. Moving on to someone who I think gets the belt back next year. Sugar Sean O'Malley. Oh, baby. Now, this might be a hot take, because either Merab or Umar is going to be holding the belt, and we just saw Merab beat O'Malley. If you saw my video, you would kind of see my understanding. I think Merab lost that fight. If we're looking at scorecards, Merab lost that fight. If we're looking at scoring criteria, he lost that fight. On scorecards, it was all over the place. They didn't know which round to score properly. It happens in title fights. I do think Sean O'Malley won. I'm not a Sean O'Malley stan. I don't personally like the way the guy lives his life outside the octagon, having multiple, not girlfriends, but having multiple partners he sleeps with, having a kid around while talking about certain topics. Not my cup of tea. Colored hair, not my cup of tea. But I do think Sean O'Malley still is candidate for one of the best strikers in the UFC. I think you probably put Alex, Ilya, then Sean O'Malley, or you move that in whatever way you want. Regardless, I think Sean O'Malley's still good. I think he had an injury in that fight, to be fair. I'm not putting too much weight in that. Don't really care. I just think he gave way too much respect to Merab, and I think in a rematch, he for sure gets a finish. I'm picking Sean O'Malley to win his belt back by finish on whoever it is. I've seen Umar get knocked out to Bekset Almakhan. If you don't believe me, he even said it in his post-fight interview. He did get knocked out by Bekset Almakhan. He just dove at legs as soon as he came to, and that's why the ref didn't stop the fight. I think Sean O'Malley almost finished Merab in round 5. I think in the rematch, he's not giving any respect to those takedowns, and he's just straight sending it, getting a TKO. I think he would KO Merab in a rematch. He's young. He's still in prime. I think he probably fights like a Peter Yan for Peter Yan 2. I think he does beat Peter Yan still. Or a Corey Sandhagen, which I still think he smokes. Yeah, I just think Sean O'Malley's still him. I think he's still good. But what I will say is that I do think he keeps it at 135. I don't think he tries to move up. I think that's a bad decision. I think he keeps it at 135. I do think he gets his belt back. And if you are a believer that Sean O'Malley did not lose to Merab Dvalishvili, and it was just a really close decision that he didn't get his hands raised, technically in the UFC, he hasn't lost via being outskilled. He was not outskilled by Merab, he was outhugged by Merab, okay? If anything. But in terms of striking, O'Malley had it on the feet. Numbers can be whatever the fuck they want. When you actually watch the fight, Merab had nothing on the feet for O'Malley that did any damage. O'Malley had him wincing in round 5. O'Malley landed nice clean hooks in round 1 and 2. I think it was maybe round 1 and 3, actually, now that I'm remembering. But regardless of that fact, close decision, he lost it. I'm of the believer that Sean O'Malley won. And under that pretense, he hasn't lost via getting outskilled to anyone in the UFC yet. He whooped Aljamain's ass. He whooped Marlon Chito Vera's ass in the rematch, proving that his perennial nerve getting hit just kind of sucks. It is what it is. And he had a close decision with Peter Yan that I think he clearly won if you rewatch it. Peter Yan fans, I get it. You love your boy. He was shooting takedowns on O'Malley and did nothing with the takedowns and was getting cut. Just saying, right? If you go back and watch it objectively, I think it's pretty clear Sean O'Malley wins. Regardless, that's my prediction. I think Sean O'Malley gets his belt back, and I think he gets his belt back by finish. That's my prediction. Moving on to the last one, probably the one I've been waiting for. Now this one, it hits close to home, And I'm predicting Brian fucking Battle to make it to top 5, baby. Ooh, the Butcher, you really thought I'd lose to a friend too? Come on, man, This is what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just gonna get out there and whoop his ass, Randy Brown, good striker. I'm just gonna knock him out in round 1, which is my prediction. I think it still happens. I'm recording this before the events of that fight. So, however the fight ended, I'm sure Bryan Battle did us proud, baby. But regardless, I think Bryan Battle isn't too far away from getting to a ranked position. Once he gets to a ranked position next year, I think he does fight 4 times within the year. Let's say he gets robbed and he loses a decision here, right? Because he's obviously not getting finished by Randy Brown, guys. That would never happen, right? But let's say he does lose. He probably needs one more unranked opponent, and then he gets a ranked fight regardless of the fact. Maybe a Renat Fakardimov rematch, something like that. That could be a little interesting. But regardless, in welterweight, I think he could fight an MVP, and I think his chances of beating MVP are pretty high. I think he's got a good chance of beating Vicente Luque or Themba Gorimbo, depending where Themba is at the time. I think Carlos Prates isn't that winnable right now, and he should take his time. But a Jeff Neal, I think he smokes. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson could be a good fight to watch. So I think he can climb these ranks, and I think at the time we're going to see a lot of fraud checking. We're going to see either JDM not being great at counteracting anyone who knows what a takedown is. We're going to see Shavkat being very finishable on the feet as long as you're not afraid of Shavkat doing Shavkat. Or we're going to see Ian Gary being a decision merchant and easily finishable. And I think Bryan Battle takes them all. Just saying. But yeah, that's my prediction. I think Bryan Battle makes a top 5 next year. Or number 6. About to be top 5. I think he climbs. I think he fights 4 times that year. That's my prediction. Runner-up for Fighter of the Year, you know? And I think he has some spectacular performances. That's my prediction for 2025. That's all of them. I just wanted some miscellaneous in there on top of some retirements. Thought that'd be fun to do. I thought it was a little interesting. But yeah, with all that being said, well, thank you for watching. If you're new around here, I daily upload. So, you know, hey, keep your eyes out. I'm on the rise. Just saying. Just saying, you know? Just saying. Oh! I'm on the rise, baby. And I ain't stopping, you know? But, yeah. Thanks for watching. As always, I hope you have a good day.